Ladies and gentlemen, the week everyone has been waiting for, especially since we don't have to deal with any more Keeneland because that was just an awful, awful month of racing for me. I don't know about you, Matthew, but we're back, Derby week. We're going to be talking about this pick six here, and it starts with a really, really great race. La Troienne stakes here, going a mile and 16th for fillies and mares, 4 year old and up. And Matthew, it's interesting. We do get the return of Secret Oath here, but the horse that just beat Secret Oath, Clairiere, does not show up here. I'm guessing they're going to give her a little bit more time, but yeah, this is a really, really great race, and in a lot of these undercard races, I'm super excited to really dig into because this is just outside of the Breeders' Cup. This is the best weekend of racing that we're gonna have. No, I know someone will probably yell at me saying, "Well, what about Belmont Stakes?" But I just think that the 2 days of the Oaks and Derby just it doesn't get any better. But
No, you can't beat this. I mean, the just sheer magnitude of the number of grade ones that are running, the names that are running. Obviously you have some horses in this particular race even that are coming back who we've not seen since the Breeders' Cup, such as the number 2 horse Search Results for Chad Brown, a horse like Society, second back from a really long layoff as well. Secret Oath, third time back from that layoff. Coming back from the Breeders' Cup. So some really big names, even a horse like Desert Dawn, who managed to hit the board in last year's Kentucky Oaks. So a lot of big names here in this race. I think a really fascinating one. I think that when the draws were announced, you and I were talking before we started recording, kind of maybe thought about this race a little similarly, where we assumed it might be, a single on Secret Oath and move on. But I think when you dive into some of the numbers a little bit more, it gets a little bit more complicated than that. And I don't see Secret Oath as necessarily a mortal lock to win this particular race. And you mentioned it a little bit in the intro, coming back on a relatively quick turnaround. I mean, just ran that last race on April 15th. Now coming back, going to be running again on May 5th. Now, listen, D Wayne might have this horse running the following week in an N2X race somewhere. He likes to run them back pretty quickly, but that is still a little concerning. And Lucas is actually only 1 for 21 over the last 5 years with horses cycling off Lasix and Secret Oath coming off of Lasix for this race. So a little bit of a concern there, I think, potentially for Secret Oath, who certainly has looked good in those first 2 races back in her 4-year-old campaign.
yeah, definitely, and I think it's definitely she's definitely a horse that has run well over the surface in 4 starts. Obviously, with the win in the Kentucky Oaks last year, and probably her best race to date was here, and was also off Lasix,
Mm-hmm.
which is interesting, since obviously Oklahoma ran twice with Lasix on, but yeah, I guess I'm going to stay on brand when it comes to this race. My eyes went straight to the E, went straight to the eight, the seven Society, and this is one of those things where you look at her Churchill form, 2 for 2 in 2 starts. Including the Monomoy girl going a mile and 16th. And won an optional claimer going 6.5 in the slop. Does have one win. So obviously we talk about the Madison, right? Seven
Mm-hmm.
furlong race at Keeneland. Got out to the lead, and finished third. To a horse named Goodnight Olive, who is probably going to be like 1 to 9 in a race on this weekend. But I just don't think Society is a sprinter. I think that she's done her best work going 2 turns. I mean, you even look at that Charlestown Oaks race, and you see 7 furlongs.
Yep.
7 furlongs at Charlestown is 2 turns.
Yep.
So I think this horse is getting back to what she wants to do. Second off the layoff, which is a plus move for Steve Asmussen. Going sprint to route, another plus move for Steve. It maybe a little concerned that this is Jose's first time riding Society, and maybe why did Steve decide to make the change, or I don't know, but I don't know. Society looked really good to me. Is definitely going to be, I think, the pace in this race, and it might just get out there in the front end and not stop.
Yeah, that's exactly where my eyes went as well in terms of an alternative to Secret Oath. I think it was the kind of the same thing where this horse just visually is so impressive when all systems are firing for her. And I agree with you. I think she doesn't mind. I was there actually that night that she won at Charlestown, and seeing her run those 2-turn races, she's really good in that spot, and she just uses that speed. I was there Cotillion Day too when she won that Pennsylvania Derby. That was one of the few times I've seen Florent Giroux be that aggressive out of the gate and just go. And I mean, he really, that was a master class on how to use a horse's speed to their advantage. And again, she should be able to have that advantage in this particular race. Just get out there and go. And nobody else really should be able to challenge her because, listen, if you can get on the lead at the grade one Madison, you should definitely be able to get on the lead without any trouble here in the La Troienne. So, I kind of also see it very similarly, and we should mention there is rain in the forecast for Kentucky Oaks Day, and so it's very possible that there's a little bit of rain and moisture on the track, and she's obviously run well over a sloppy surface at Churchill before and can handle that sort of condition. So just another reason to like a front runner. Typically, when it is sloppy conditions, I like front runners as well. Those horses hate that kickback, when it's that muddy and thick. So I'm always going to go with the horse like Search Results. So that's kind of the way I'm seeing this. I'm kind of probably going to be playing Search Results up top and then Secret Oath underneath. I will say another horse that I'm a little intrigued by is coming out of Gulfstream Park, which I know is always a little bit of a question mark, but the number 6 Classy Edition, 8-1 on the morning line for Todd Pletcher. Is a horse that's coming off a win in the Grade 3 Royal Delta. And I think the real question with her is whether or not those last 2 races are real, because you can see a pretty significant gap between the types of speed figures, whether you're looking at Brisnet or whether you're looking at Bayer, and what this horse ran those last 2 times out versus what this horse has historically run, whether that in the Gazelle or the Donovan last year, coming off a little bit of a layoff, but is training well, gets Irad Ortiz aboard. Obviously, Irad, finished off the Keeneland meet with a little bit of a funk, but obviously very capable rider and one of the best out there. And so 8-1 on the morning line, giving you a little bit of value maybe to use underneath. I don't necessarily view as a win contender, but should sit, a stalking sort of a trip there and might be in a decent position.
Yeah, and I'd kind of pulled up the optics plot there while you were talking.
Yeah.
Which is obviously a tool I use. And Emily, she'll be doing I think a couple different seminars. So just stay tuned to the optics Twitter. She'll have all kinds of stuff up there for walking through all the races. Way better than I probably do. But you see your big old circle here, Society the 7, which is, like I said, where I'm tending to lean at. And another horse that I'm going to use is also going to be forwardly placed, going to sit just off, is the one played hard here for
Hmm.
Phil Bauer and John Velasquez. So just kind of looking at this horse's races at Churchill, I mean, 3-3-1 and 8 starts. Ran a really, really humongous figure at Saratoga in a win going a mile. So this is obviously just a little bit longer, but horses coming off a win here at Churchill, is coming in off a bit of a layoff. But if you kind of look at Phil Bauer's stats, layoff or no layoff, it about works out about the same.
Mhm.
Johnny Velasquez sees fit to ride here. And I think it's also his first time aboard, played hard. But I just thought this is another one that's going to be forwardly placed, can sit just off. Has decent mud pedigree, obviously being by Into Mischief out of a Tis Now dam. So mud top and bottom there. So I think that this might be another one. Comes up sloppy. Maybe even move this one up even more, because the pedigree is definitely there. It has only 2 starts on the off going. Showed a little bit in one of those starts, but I thought played hard here is going to be another alternative, I think, to Secret Oath and some of the other short prices.
Yeah, I was definitely an interesting horse, and from the inside post, they're going to go. So it's definitely going to be forwardly placed. I mean, that's also her MO just in general. But I was a little bit worried about coming back from the layoff for her. She has won off a layoff before, so it's not as if she can't fire off of a pretty significant layoff. From a speed figure standpoint, it does seem like she gets stronger as she keeps running a little bit. So that was something which I just kind of noted and thought, well, maybe this will, she'll be better second or third time out. But certainly, from a pace standpoint, should be right there. And we'll have the race kind of right in front of her going into the home stretch, you would imagine. So nothing wrong with that at all. Definitely like always like using those forwardly placed horses. And I will say, I'll just because I think we should mention this horse, search results, the number 2 horse, obviously coming back from a really long layoff. This is a horse that uh, I still think one of the most impressive efforts I saw was actually her run at the Ogden Phipps, where I mean she was just flat out flying and just setting obscene fractions with Latruska early, and still managed to hang on for third that day. That was one of the best third place finishes I've seen in a graded stakes race recently. She's got a ton of talent, but coming off a long layoff, 4-1 on the morning line. I'm just not thrilled with that, and she's a horse that hasn't really fired the last few times coming off a layoff. Even though I know Chad's got great numbers off a long layoff, so she's one who might attract a lot of money because she's a big name coming off a layoff for a big time barn. But I'm kind of pretty hard pass on her in this spot. I just don't really see it. I don't know about you.
Yeah, search results isn't for me. I think, if I'm going for the speed horse, I'm going to be on the Seven Society.
Yeah.
But interestingly, search results has only ran once in the mud, and obviously one that was that ruffian. So I don't know. Is that does that play into it at all? If you get it comes up sloppy, do you think that maybe you move search results up a little bit?
Maybe I think it depends on what else you see in the race, right? I mean, if she's the only one who responds well to the slop, then you go, okay, maybe there's something there. But in looking over the rest of this field, we've already talked about 2 other horses that have responded pretty well to sloppy conditions, who we like a little bit more. So I'm not going to necessarily elevate her because of that. I think you just have to take that into consideration of who else is in the field, how have they run in the slop, and kind of use that to as a barometer of whether or not you want to move a horse up or down. But yeah, I'm kind of out on search results here. I will say one of the horses that I will be using underneath at a huge price is probably the number 8 Desert Dawn for Phil D'Amato, who had a pretty successful Keeneland meet. Gets Umberto Rispoli up on the mountain, a second back from a pretty lengthy layoff. This is a horse that finished third in that Kentucky Oaks last year, and depending on what speed figures you're looking at, she may not be able to compare to some of the others. If you're looking at buyers, she's really nowhere close to where some of the top horses are. But here's the thing: she is a really strong closer. She's got nice late pace speed figures. If there is too aggressive of a pace up front, if society gets pressed a little too much by search results, by the number 1 horse, maybe you start looking for closers coming. Desert Dawn could come running late, pick up some pieces, maybe hit the board at a big price, 20-1 on the morning line. Going to probably use her underneath in some sort of a trifecta.
Yeah, I know we were talking a little bit before the stream, and you were pretty, or for the recording, and you were pretty high on Desert Dawn. I'm pretty much just going to be top pick society, and
Yep.
I'm gonna use I'm gonna use a bit of the one here, played hard. Um, I mean, there is a world where maybe one of those horses scratches out, or something else happens, and maybe Secret Oath makes my ticket, just off the, especially like I said, if it gets really sloppy out there. One of obviously the Oaks last year, with a bit of rain, so maybe getting back to muddy Churchill is exactly what the doctor ordered for Secret Oath, but yeah, I'm gonna be 7-1 mostly.
Yeah, I'll be using 7-4, and depending on the price of tickets that I end up having for this pick 6, maybe just going with the 7, which might be a little bit of a tightrope to walk, but I can always run it back in the pick 5 if I get out in the first round. So it's first leg, so it's not the end of the world. But yeah, I think I'm going to try to beat Secret Oath here, just because I think this is a very beatable race for her coming back off of a short layoff, and we should mention one of the things we remember about Secret Oath is she just looked tired towards the end of last year's campaign.
Hmm.
And again, I just worry when D Wayne starts running her too much, does she just lose a little bit about that pep and a little bit of that zip that she has that turn of foot? So I'm going to use the horse that's pretty fresh, coming second back from the layoff, and who absolutely represents the speed of the speed.
Yeah, and this is a really important race when it comes horizontally. It's the start of the 2-day pick 6, which is what the series of videos I'm doing here are going to be covering. But it's also the start of the late pick 5, with the 2 get out
Yep.
races, the 12th and the 13th, which are going to be heavily bet. after I clearly bust out of about everything on the Kentucky Oaks, because I have no idea who I'm going to be picking in that race. So the horse I like the most is like 20 to 1 on the morning line. So
Ooh,
who even knows? But yeah, Matthew, thank you for hanging out with me,
yeah.
talking this race. Where can people find you?
People can always find me on Twitter at the handle at Failed to Menace. Got a bunch of content for the Kentucky Derby, Kentucky Oaks, and all this information that you're going to need for the Triple Crown. And hope to do some more stuff with you guys and have you on some of my shows as well coming up here. And so always good talking to you, Josh, and really appreciate the time.
Yep. All right, we'll catch you guys later.